Hello and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Emma from Radical Recruit. Emma, how are you?
Really, really well, mate. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Listen, I've been hearing a little bit about the story before. Paul Hinkins introduced us recently, and you're doing some incredible stuff right now. But I don't want to do you the injustice of running it through myself. Go and tell us your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and now what you're doing with Radical Recruit.
Okay, well, I guess I've always worked in for the underdog, what I call the human services sector, with people who are sitting on the sort of outskirts of society, and they're marginalised by the systems and the structures that exist within our society. And I started my career off in disability, and I moved from sort of disadvantaged group to disadvantaged group, doing all sorts of wonderful work, from accommodation to outreach services and these types of things. I did that for 15 years. And before I founded Radical, I had the privilege and the honour of supporting just shy of 400 women come out of prison and find jobs that they loved and be better citizens and re-establish themselves in their family units. I was the chief operating officer for a grassroots charity that did sort of similar work to Radical. And I was speaking at this conference with the first candidate that I ever placed into work. And the conference was by Reward Gateway, called the NX Summit, and it was themed HR Rebels. And I was on a panel, and we were talking about sort of what's possible when the third sector and the business world unite in purpose. And I was joined by Chanel, the woman, my first ever placement, because I'm not a recruiter, by the way, and the head of people from Honest Burgers. And essentially what was happening is we were telling Chanel's story from our different perspectives. And Chanel was in front of like 100 rebellious brains who she'd never met before. And she was telling her story from life in the care of the state. I use that term really, really loosely because it's a very broken system. And then her sort of journey into prison as a young adult, and then into the world of work. And when I met Chanel, I was in my first week in that role, and I was tasked with having a conversation with her and developing a CV that we could then take to market. And I had 20 minutes on the phone. It was a call from prison. You only get 20 minutes before the line goes dead. And I learned as much as I could about her, in that time. She was essentially born into really tumultuous circumstances. She was sort of the one of 16 siblings, young Black woman, born into a family, really generational poverty, I guess. Her father was very heavily involved in crime, and she'd been taken into care at a very young age. And we were telling her story, and she was saying things like, for the first time, I feel safe. For the first time, I feel like I belong. I'm valued, and all of these sort of things that we really take for granted, I think. And she attributed all of those things to having secured work on release. So after I developed her CV, and I literally totally blagged it, because what can you learn about a person in 20 minutes? I sent it to Honest Burgers, and their head of HR came into the prison to interview Chanel, and she'd baked him some carrot cake, and he tasted the carrot cake. He said it was the best carrot cake he'd ever tasted, and gave her a job as a kitchen porter, essentially. And at this conference, we were like, at that time, she was training to be a head chef. So she'd actually progressed her career, and she hadn't gone back to her family. She hadn't gone back to her, lifestyle, which was incredibly dangerous, And after the conference, I was just like, bloody hell, there are the male estate, there's 80,000 beds in the male estate, 5,000 in the female estate. If someone like Chanel, who was born with the odds stacked up against her and on paper probably shouldn't have been alive, can transform her life and achieve in the ways that she had with such limited support. Like why couldn't a similar model work for other people who experience the same barriers, plus a whole load others? Why wouldn't it work for them? And so I went to the pub after the conference, and I was like buzzing. I was so buzzing. It was such like, it was the best feeling seeing her talk in the way she did. I mean, she was so brave and she was so articulate, and she was really championing the rights of people who had made mistakes but wanted to build better futures. And she was really opening the minds of the people that we were talking to about, you know, how easy it is to be born into like generational poverty and joblessness and not have the opportunities we all take for granted. And I sort of scribbled, I ordered a big glass of red wine, and I scribbled down everything I was thinking. And that sort of was like the catalyst, what propelled me into action. So I left my job, and a few months later, I didn't really have a plan, if I'm honest. I started Radical Recruit, what is now Radical Recruit. And I had the intention of sort of piloting Radical on a really small scale. So taking 10 people from incredibly disadvantaged backgrounds with intersecting disadvantage from the different constituencies that I was interested in. So I was looking at care leavers, ex-offenders, and homelessness, and placing them into work or supporting them to get ready to compete in competitive recruitment processes, win jobs, and then helping them to sustain their employment, and then taking that data and saying, you know, with the right support, people can get jobs. These people from these really disadvantaged communities can get jobs, and they can stay and work. But my plans went out the window, and as soon as sort of the Brexit vote happened and the election happened and Christmas, and now sort of the pandemic, and what was meant to be a pilot project has turned into something sort of far greater. So we've placed 75 people into work, although I think we may have I've just seen a little notification that we may have another 2 offers today. Yes.
Look at
that. You know, we're developing relationships with the corporate world that enable us to open up sort of more opportunities. And I've got some funding recently to pilot a recruitment project with 100 people that have no recourse to public funds but have been taken off the streets and housed temporarily by government, and getting them ready for work to put them into work. So we're Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government funded. Say that 3 times quickly, I dare. And we've just proven that this model actually works for the most vulnerable of our community, as well as people who, you know, just lack a bit of confidence, have had sort of a mental health crises, have a bereavement or whatever that's taken them out of the workplace and meant that they've got a career gap on their CV, that just need a little bit of help and an introduction to the right employer. So we're working with like the most diverse talent and placing them into jobs that they love and sustaining them in work.
So talk to me about that sort of, you've got diverse talent there, but I presume it's a diverse group of people who you're putting them into as well. Talk to me about the sort of the destinations for these people, and are you working with them to find out what their hopes, dreams, and aspirations are and matching it accordingly, or are you saying that these are some of the things that you've got available? What are the sort of what are the jobs that you're putting these people into?
Yeah, so I mean, if you talk to any proper recruiter, they'll tell you I'm nuts. So we don't have the luxury of you know, focusing on any given sector or placing people in particular disciplines, because there's no one else doing this work with the people that we're representing, which means we have to find employers for all of them, and they all want something different. So, I mean, our salary range currently is from London living wage up to 90K. Mm-hmm. And we've placed people in IT, in tech. Oh, that they're the same things. I don't know why I said that twice. In finance, in youth care, all sorts of, you know, we placed a web developer of all things. You know, the people that we're working with have like really varied sort of skills and experience. I mean, some of them have had sort of careers at C-suite level, and you know, have degenerating disabilities, which means that if they get made redundant and they have to find another job, it's incredibly hard to do. All the way down to sort of people who have absolutely no work experience at all and cannot see their own potential. So we have recruitment conversations. We do all sorts of work before we introduce our radicals to, I call my candidates radicals, to employers, to sort of understand where they've been, where they are, and where they want to go. And I think we do sort of assess what skills and experience they have that are transferable into the workplace. We look at their experience and their qualifications and map them to industry standards, and to have conversations about, what job roles they might like to consider doing that they potentially haven't even heard about. Or, lots of our people come from generational poverty. So their parents haven't worked potentially, and certainly not in corporate environments. So this idea of, I'll say to a young person, well, you're really good at tech and you're really good at social media and you're a really good networker and you love to read and write. Have you thought about comms or marketing or social media management? Because they're managing 6 or 7 accounts already. And they look and say, well, how would I get into that? And we say, well, this employers want to, we'll introduce them to the employer, and they say, God, I've never worked in an office before. So a lot of what we do is about, with the people who are, incredibly and uniquely vulnerable. A lot of the hard work we do with them is about sort of helping them to see their potential and giving them the confidence to sort of walk with purpose into their futures. But for other people, we're working with a gentleman who was, he came out of prison when he was 28. He's now 56, so half a lifetime ago. And when he was 25, he committed a really stupid crime, and it was not out of necessity or anything like that. He was in with the wrong crowd. And he came out of prison, and it was robbery with a weapon, a gun. So he got 3 and whatever years in prison, which meant his conviction would never be spent. He came out of prison way back when, and looked for jobs for a year or so, and then he got 3 offers, and he picked, in hindsight, the most ridiculously risky one, like an internship type thing with a big Golden Circle law firm who have global reach. And he worked for that firm and worked his way up from the tea maker, essentially, up to sort of billing and finance manager over 25 years. He gave them 25 years of service. And his employer brought in a retrospective DBS policy, which meant that for the first time he was asked, do you have an unspent conviction? So of course he said yes, and they terminated him. So this man, was living the suburban dream. He's got 2 kids, he's got a wife, they've got the picket fence, the dogs, on a really nice pay packet, and his life changed, overnight. So his entire identity, almost, he's a family man, he's a provider, he's a professional in the legal space. Was living a really good life, just gone. So we've helped him to connect with 2 employers who have since outsourced their billing function, and he set up his own company. And so, he's out earning good money, and they're really happy with him, and blah, blah, blah. But it took him 6 months to find us at Radical, and then another 6 months to work out the best route back into employment for him, because the legal scene's so risk averse. They just won't. And despite, I think it's the SRA who regulate legal firms in the UK, they wrote to him and said, we've no problem with you working in that role again, but you have to disclose. But getting that interview, getting past the box that says, have you got an unspent conviction, is near impossible, depending on sort of what sector you're wanting to go into. So we do all of that.
And so it's a stunning story, isn't it? That and you can see how difficult it is for so many people to circumnavigate that sort of experience. The thing for me I'm interested in is when you're dealing with that sort of person, and such a variety of people. You mentioned it there that if you put your recruitment head on, it sounds almost important. And I'm just trying to compute it in my head at the moment going through this. So you literally, so when you've got this radical, and you say, right, okay, this is where we want to take you in your career. What do you do from there? I mean, you're talking about the consultation side of it. Is it you then knocking on the doors of companies and explaining what Radical do and talking to them about the candidate and selling each candidate individually, so to speak, on their merits, or how does that side of it? How does the commerciality of it work?
Yeah, I mean, before the apocalypse, I had every intention of operating the agency in the same way as our mainstream for-profit counterparts do. So entering into commercial arrangements with organisations who are committed to D&I and want to translate their rhetoric into action by recruiting from, untapped or hidden talent pools. And we would charge a hell of a lot less than our mainstream counterparts for the same sort of, well, it's not even the same service for the recruitment service, but we also provide a huge level of sort of risk assessment and pre-employment support to get people ready to apply for their jobs. Currently, we've had to look at what we can take to market to diversify our income, because recruitment in London is slow, and coming up to Christmas will be dead. So we've got sort of two groups of candidates. We've got candidates who are sort of lower skilled, who we can put into sort of, or who are suitable for volume recruitment roles like retail, warehousing, driving, logistics, all of these types of jobs. And they're people typically who are sort of starting their journey and don't actually know what they want to do for a career. And then we've got people in the middle, so three groups maybe, people in the middle who actually, they know what they want to do, or they've been doing it and they're going up and they're generally in professional services. And then we've got people who have had really long careers with refined sets of skills in professional roles, who know what they want and just need the right employer and very little support. So our approach with each individual is different, but if we were to group them in those three ways, we partner with sort of corporates, like we've got Mighty on our books at the moment, and they've got vacancies across their business throughout the country, and we support with their what I would call volume recruitment, and they provide really great opportunities for the radicals that are just starting off in their careers that need a little bit of extra support to sustain their employment, and who will progress, upwards in the right organisation. We have employers approach us with roles, and that's more and more that's happening, I think, because people are becoming aware of the brand and the work we're doing, and word of mouth.
You're doing a great job on that branding piece, as I said earlier on.
I don't know anything about branding, and it's all done. I don't have any budget for marketing, so I do a lot of like telling stories on LinkedIn and celebrating success, because I think like what people don't realize, or I think the key sort of barrier for us is that our people are often sort of viewed through a lens of mistrust. So they're assumed to be untrustworthy, they're assumed to lack motivation, they're assumed to not have the skills to get the job or the ability to sustain it. Like when you talk about a homeless person, what's the first thing you think about? Drug users. We haven't got any homeless people who are actively using drugs on our books. And the majority of the people that we have been working with are actually homeless because they lost their job because of COVID and they couldn't pay their rent and they've been illegally evicted. We've got so many young people who have come through the care system. The system's absolutely failed them. And they've ended up on the streets or sofa surfing with friends. They're like invisible homeless. People don't even realize, because we all think homeless people are drug and alcohol users. They're dirty, they're disheveled, they don't want to work. It's just not, that's not true. So we do a lot of sort of talking about that. And I think through that, we're developing relationships with businesses who see that there is an imbalance of certain groups and not represented within their current teams, and they're actually not able to get their vacancies out to the people that they want to engage, because the people they want to engage are not on jobs boards. They might not have access to computers, for example, or Wi-Fi. That doesn't mean they couldn't do the jobs that that they've got to fill. It just means that they're not seeing them. I was speaking to one of my partners today, and they were saying they've got a creative director role. They really, really like a Black woman in post. And so this is what's called positive action. So it's a perfectly legal thing to do in recruitment. If you want to redress the imbalance of if you want to address the imbalance of a certain group represented in your organization, you can go and sort of target your recruitment or provide scholarship programs or however it is to get these people into your business. You know, they said, oh, I said, well, how are you going to do that? And they said, well, we're going to do some recruitment drives in economically disadvantaged. I can't even remember what the term they use, you know, go to Hackney and tell people in Hackney about our vacancies. And I was like, you've got to think a little bit more broadly about this. I said, if I go onto your website and I look at your executive team, which is where this post sits, and I see all white men, as a white woman, I don't know whether I'd want to work for you, because I kind of feel like women don't belong in your business. If I were a Black woman, I don't think I'd apply. Like, yeah. I think it would be really, so these are the things that we have these conversations, and we're sort of, I say, you're not being radical enough. You know, you need to think more broadly about your D&I strategy. It's not enough to say we're diverse. It's not enough to say we want you to feel included. You have to take positive action. So more and more, like, the work we're doing is actually with organizations who know they want to be more diverse. They know the importance of people feeling like they're included and they belong, but don't quite know how to reach the people that they want in the business and ensure that they feel sort of included within the team. So we do like loads of outreach. I've got sort of access to 800 job centres. You know, we talk with all the prisons and probation services. We've got a relationship with, you know, organisations that support refugees, that support victims of modern slavery, all these people that, I mean, you wouldn't even know existed, really, that we can sort of have conversations with. And we market you as a leader in inclusion, a leader in diversity, and we make introductions to people that you just wouldn't meet because they don't think they can work for you, or you don't know they exist. So
it's fascinating, isn't it?
Recruitment bit, we do a bit of everything, really. I mean, whatever's needed, we go where the work is, where the need is.
I love that, and look, there's another aspect there because you talk about we a lot, and it is we, isn't it? Because this has been I think probably one of the ways that you came onto the radar for me was seeing more and more people who I knew or knew of that have become part of this new radical recruit thing that I saw popping up everywhere. So tell me a little bit about the team you're assembling and how all that works.
I have the best team in the history of ever. So I've worked in a lot of teams throughout my career, and never, ever, ever, and all sort of teams that were meant to be mission driven, you know, values led, doing that sort of work. I have never met or had the privilege of working with a better team who are incredibly skilled people, but also just so mission driven and so committed to what we're doing. And I happened upon most of them by chance. So up until 4 months ago, I think, I was a one-woman show, and I'm supported by like this army of amazing humans, volunteers, who I find on LinkedIn. And I was called by St. Mungo's, who they'd just been tasked to like take thousands of people off the streets. It was March, I think this happened. And they were looking for an employment or a recruitment partner, and they emailed me and they said, can you help? And I was thinking, what am I going to do? Like, I'm a one-woman show, I've got no money. Yeah, right. So I didn't even respond to the emails. I thought, I'm not going to waste their time. And then I got a call from the same guy saying, I've heard about you. What can you do? And I was like, hey, I still don't have nothing. I've got no infrastructure. I'm still learning how to use Firefish, CRM. Anyway, I was thinking, I couldn't get it out of my head. And homelessness, I just felt like so compelled to do something. So I thought, bugger it. I'm going to write a funding proposal that says, if you give me this money, I think I can do that, with all of the usual caveats. We're in the middle of an apocalypse. There are no jobs. The market's being flooded by viable candidates. There are more redundancies in the way. You know, we're about to go into a recession. And so I sent that off, and don't know why, but they read it and they want to have a conversation. So then I got this funding. It's sizable for a startup. And they were like, okay, you've got 3 weeks to mobilize. And I was like, shit. This. So I put up an ad on LinkedIn, and I was like, I need a crack team of recruiters and blah, blah, blah. And it was really like, I mean, I'm not a copywriter, and anyway, it resonated with some people. So I held an information session. I said, this is who you'd have to be working with, because I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And we've got this impossible mission, and this is how I think we can make it work, but I'm not entirely sure. Are you brave? And so I had Paul, who introduced me to you. He came to the session, Glenn, Mel, and Lee. So we had about 40 people on the session. 20 thought they could put up with me and put applications in, and I ended up with these. Well, it was Lee and Glenn and Mel initially. So Mel comes from like a recruitment marketing background, but she's this big, like, softy, beautiful human. She couldn't be nicer. And I thought, yeah, that's what we need. And a real like pit bull. No one says no to Mel. And then Glenn, I knew through the social recruiting show. He had me on as a guest because he was the host with my mentor, Katrina Collier, who is the author of The Robot Proof Recruiter. Do you know? Have you heard?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, and she's connected me with all these amazing humans. And then Lee, who comes from, he's done 20 years in recruitment, most recently banking. And normally I'd turn my nose up to him, but anyone in banking recruitment, I'm like, ooh, you can't do charity work. And yeah, they've just hit the ground running, and they're doing amazing work. So, and we get on really, really well, and there's no sort of airs and graces, and we, have heated conversations, we challenge each other and, poke fun and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're like heads down, bums up, and they're changing lives. And it's such an amazing thing. And then Paul came to the info session. He wasn't quite right for the role, but he said, I just want to get involved. And I do get this a lot. People want to sort of become involved in this thing, because it's, when you see the outcome of the work, you're literally changing people's lives. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a real honor. And he sort of has been amazing. He's really risk averse, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And he's really considered, and I'm not. And, he's been helping me sort of think through like the strategy for 2021, because I've had it in my head, but never had time to like put it down on paper. So we talk, and then he's like, he writes it in a way that's like useful for the rest of the team. And he's just been, helping me just get organized, really. So he's on our books. And then I've just brought on board Chris, who was a radical, and young Alicia, who was one of our homeless radicals. So they're like going to be this kick-ass duo that do all the candidate-facing stuff. So all the risk assessment, the onboarding, induction, the pre-work support, organising volunteers. So we've got a really great team. I'm honestly blessed. Thank God, because if I picked the wrong people, I'd be up the creek without a paddle.
And now that comes on to the next phase of it, right? And you're going through some crowdfunding and trying to get onto the next phase of growth for the business. Tell us about what the future looks like. Tell us about what that funding looks like, and what the goals are.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've proven the model now. We've recruited a crack team who do really good quality work. And I had this shower moment. Apparently, all the best thinking happens in the shower. Don't know whether you know that. The shower moment like a month ago, I was like, shit, the funding runs out. We've proven the model. Everything's working. Things are like ticking along. We're like at the point where we can scale up, and we've put 75 people into work. We want to do 400 next year. and this money's going to run out. So I'm sort of in the process of negotiating sort of project contracts and things like that, but nothing's dropped yet. And I just thought I need to be able to retain this team because they've all got to pay bills, don't they? Christmas coming up, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, let's give crowdfunding a go. So we are attempting to raise £150,000, which will be used to retain the current team and put a minimum of 150 people into work, homeless people into work. And we're doing that hopefully in partnership with the corporate world. So I'm kind of a believer in mutual exchange, and I don't want to ask for something for nothing. So what we've done is we will bundle up sort of the service that we offer for free at the moment, that help our corporate partners meet their CSR and D&I commitments into sort of a tailored package that is bespoke. And in return for pledges. So, I mean, we don't need a lot of businesses to pledge, but that will include things like unconscious bias training for sort of leaders and HR teams with a focus on recruitment. We can do some bespoke stuff too, of course. We've got a D&I jobs board that will launch next year. We have sort of corporate volunteering, hospitality days, experiential learning, these types of things. We can support our partners to submit awards nominations, provide impact reports, case studies to share on social. So all of the things that, everyone say, we're committed to D&I, we want to do something for CSR. We're wanting to talk to businesses, I guess, who are wanting to turn their commitment into action by helping us tackle homelessness, but also who want something in return. So that's a grand plan. We launch next week and we've got 28 days. So I'm terrified at the prospect of failing. I'm honestly so scared because, not only do I hate not winning, but I've got 600 radicals on my books and they're people who really need help, and we've got a wait list that's huge. And we're the only people that do this recruitment piece with homeless people and other sort of disadvantaged groups. And I have this huge personal responsibility. And if we don't get this money, it'll be down to me and my two radicals that I've just recruited. And we've got money till March. And then, that's it for radicals. So it's terrifying, but incredibly exciting because we've got just really ambitious plans for the future. We want to be, transforming more lives. That's the goal.
I think the exciting thing is the bit to focus in on there, because the force of nature that I've just witnessed over the last half hour or so it makes me very, very confident that there'll be there won't be too much of a problem of you moving through this over the next 28 days. It's really exciting for you, and I'm sure there's going to be people who are watching this and wanting to get involved. If they do and they want to find out a little bit more, and people reach out to you to get involved in all of this and find out a bit more about Radical and what you guys are doing, what's the best way for them to do that, Emma?
Well, they can email me at emma@radicalrecruit.co.uk. We're also on LinkedIn. And we've got we've been working with Guardian Jobs and SMRS, which they do all this great work in advertising, things like that. So they've been helping us to pull together a beautiful pitch deck to send to people who are potentially interested in investing or donating to our good cause. So we would be happy to have conversations about sort of what business leaders think they need in their business and how we can help, and then sort of tailoring a package that does that. So yeah, send us an email, send me an email. That would be wonderful, and I'd love to have a chat.
Sounds good. Well, I'm sure there's going to be loads of people who want to have a chat with that as well. It sounds like it's an incredible thing that you're doing. I love the fact that it's taken off. And as you said, look, if there's going to be a time to launch something like this, there's not going to be a more difficult thing than what you've been through over the last, for all sorts of economic reasons over the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like if you look at even if you're sort of thinking about your purse as a taxpayer or a business that pays tax, every year it costs £18,333 to leave a person on the street. right? And that's a cost that the taxpayer absorbs every single year that that person lives on the street. It costs us less than $3,000 to put a person in work, a homeless person in work. So even if you're just concerned about the business case, don't worry about even the ethical case. Don't worry about the moral case, that these are real humans we're talking about. Even if you're just concerned about money, this represents a huge cost saving to the taxpayer and to the business community.
Yeah.
You know, so and if you like the stats for homelessness, I mean, the government don't know how many homeless people there are, but it's estimated. Shelter do a big piece around this every year, and they say 230,000 people are homeless every year. I was reading recently that that's increased up to around 320,000. That was maybe 2 months ago. There are tens of thousands of people like you and I who had jobs, who have lost their jobs, who have been evicted from their homes because of COVID. 11% of the 320,000 people that we know are currently homeless are young people aged 18 to 25. Like it's a massive issue that it is, and it's like there are so many of us who are on the verge of becoming really unstuck, you know, who have like children and families to feed. So it's something that I think businesses really, your leadership is indispensable. You know, if you're going to do something, do it now. This is homelessness is a completely solvable problem.
And I feel like I should be standing up and applauding you at the moment. It's an incredible well, it's an incredible thing that you guys are doing, and I'm so pleased that it's going so well. And I wish you the very, very best of luck with you know, this next sort of round. And look, I've been speaking to Paul about it, and I know how excited he is and how passionate you all are about what's going on at the moment. And I know that passion is going to go a long way, and you're going to continue to do wonderful things. So thanks so much for sharing everything today with what you're doing, and telling us a little bit more about it, giving us a window into what's happening with Radical. And long may it continue. Well done, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon on another episode of Fintech Focus TV, and please do get in touch with Emma. Thanks a lot, everyone. Cheers.